Good afternoon. So, third time lucky on starting this stream. One day I hope I might not have technical issues, but so far no such luck. Don't know if I'm just overloading my poor computer, perhaps. Anyway, so today I just thought I'd have a quick look at the old majors, and then I was going to look at old and new, but just because of this streaming issue, I figured I'll just look at old and then I'll do new as a separate stream if I can get through this, and also just to make the stream a bit shorter, given it's quite late in the day now. So the old majors are Ripple, BCH, Litecoin, and EOS. EOS isn't remotely a major anymore, but because it's quite a lagging chart, it tends to be worth looking at, because I joke about there being an EOS top signal, but like quite often EOS is lagging everything else, and when EOS hits a top, that's when the market's sort of done. So it's always worth like keeping half an eye on it, although I don't trade it and I don't tend to look at it too low time frame. But I'll start with Ripple because I think that's what everybody is super interested in. It has made a new annual demand. So I think some of these I've updated for the new annual zones, but not all of them, so we'll have to just see what I've got. Random little dot on that chart. So it's made an annual demand all the way down here at 83. And no, I'm getting warnings again on my streams. But I might just continue regardless and just hope the recording at least works out, and then I can upload the recording. So it's made an annual demand down here at 83, and we've also got an annual level up here because it's closed slightly over that level, and that's not normally a level I would trade, but it is a level that's currently being used for support, so worth considering. 6 months is a 6 month demand zone inside this annual, and 3 month at the same level. There's also a 2 month in there and a 1 month. So this sort of whole area of consolidation obviously is generally a reasonably good area to look for longs if price does revisit. And I'm still getting the warning. Different warning this time though. About configuring my primary and backup streams, but I'm sure I have configured those, so that's very confusing. Anyway, the issue I guess we have here, so this is actually not the full chart, so let's just look at the full chart. So the full chart shows this, what everybody's talking about, this breakout of a 7-year consolidation, which is obviously quite impressive in itself. We are still, however, in range. We haven't broken out of the high. Holding this as support is pretty good. So, if you really want to trade this all the way up here, then to trade this and, on a significant close below the annual level is your stop loss, then by all means go ahead. I tend not to like breakout trading. It never really works that well for me. So I won't be doing that myself. If we come back here, like I say, this is a decent area to look for longs again. We had some really good longs last year, so I managed to call longs at the bottom here. I think 2 or 3 of the bottoms here. It did throw me off here by creating a weak monthly supply, and then it pounded straight back through it. But then I also did post at the same time a pattern that is common on Ripple, and it'll do it in both directions, and I'll talk about it at the top here in a minute. But yeah, there was a pattern that it can make where it makes a consolidation, does the manipulation, takes everybody out, and then goes straight up through it, and that's basically what happened here. The timing of these majors was just quite difficult because they all sort of were looking, this obviously looked a bit stronger on the higher time frame, but they were all looking a bit more bearish and a bit more like they were going to break down here. And the October candle before the November candle went crazy in this case. It's disconcerting seeing the spinning wheels of YouTube next to me. I've got someone testing the stream, but I haven't heard back yet as to whether it's actually running or not. Let me just check my messages. Anyway, let's just move on. So yeah, going back to the original chart. Obviously, if we start to break down below this annual level, then it's likely we're going to test some deeper zones, and it's slightly challenging because we've got a 3-day demand there, a 3-day demand there, then this annual, then the monthly, and below that are just sort of zones that I would wanted tested but didn't get tested back then. I provisionally had an alert here for a while for a retest of the 3-day, even when we were there, but it hasn't come back for it, and I've left it there like, well, while there is another 3-day here higher. I think when I was looking back at history, and Ripple looks inclined to sort of break a couple of levels when it retests. I'm trying to can't remember what my examples were. Obviously not going to be able to find any now, and this obviously held at least for an initial bounce. But Ripple does tend to retrace to the start of the impulse. So this is a breakout. If this is a breakout, then maybe it won't in this case. But yeah, just be conscious if you're trying to trade these bounces down that they might be scalps. But there is a 3-day there, there is a 3-day there, and then there's the annual and the monthly, which you can trade lower if you want. As far as current price goes, we had the annual level that I just talked about. We also just made a 3-week demand at the close. So I'm going to delete this. I don't really want to delete this 3-day yet, actually, because it hasn't run through it yet. But it did make a 3-week demand. Oh, excuse me. At the close of last week's candle, and then we've tapped off that, and we're moving up here. So that's pretty promising for anybody who's longing or still in longs up here. We may or may not create a 2-week demand at this level at the end of this week, which again will be another decent long entry if it happens. It's still quite a while to go till the end of the week, and I put that in as a dashed line because it hasn't confirmed yet. Weekly, maybe we'll get a test on here if we can go up through that level. 5-day, I think, and like I'm looking at much more at the 4 and 5-day recently because we're getting moves before these confirm. Still got a couple of days till that 5-day confirms, and then we've also had a 4-day in there. So again, if you want to add to trades, it's worth looking at all these zones as they develop and confirm. Put that 4-day in there. And then we're still at the moment in 3-day supply. I might remove that now actually, but as you can see, we're still in this supply, like while it's pushing through it and it's broken out of the triangle, we are still in that supply. And then we've got that high of the range and low of the range. So as I say, if you start to see, if you're in longs and you start to see this breakdown, then obviously that would be the cue to exit, because it's got a decent sized drop it can do if it does fail. Let's look at the 2-day and the daily. So daily, it didn't quite test this level down here, but it's not a very clean daily. And the other thing is, so it's also got a daily in here. So once you start seeing the uptrend of whatever support, gone in the wrong color. Just change that back to the blue, which is my daily color. So this is your support over here, and that would be a 12-hour or an 8-hour in this case. So you'll find you get a big move up, and then you'll get a small consolidation, and this could be on any time frame. I've seen these on 3-minute and 1-minute hold as support, but that's kind of really the support you're looking at for your whole consolidation. And it's bounced there, then it started to make higher lows. And once the point it started to make higher lows, you can potentially start looking at what new demand is formed above this. But really until it actually breaks out the high, and these demands are showing strength as soon as they break supply. So in this case we had a good strong candle, but it didn't actually break supply, so this wasn't a particularly high probability long, but it did work regardless. It's then come up into the next supply, and again it's retrace, and again these moves are stronger than the retracements we're getting. So once you start seeing that, then you can start looking for follow-up entries. We've now seen a slightly bigger sell-off here, and it's pretty much driven by what Bitcoin's been doing, but it's come straight back down into that 4-day demand. We've also got a 12-hour that's been put in here, and again similar to Bitcoin, which I'm a little bit skeptical about at the moment. like when you're very, very close to the supply like this, again, like I say, I don't like breakout trading. So for me, this is not a trade I would want to take because we're too close to the previous high of resistance, this high anyway. So I would much rather at this point see a significant move breakout if it happens and then get the retest of that than try and scalp in here when we're right at resistance, because this could still be distributing. And the comment I made again about that little consolidation at the lows, this is also very common. So I joke about the Ripple triangle fake out. Ripple is the master of doing triangles, breaking out and then dumping. And I don't know, maybe it can do it the other way as well, I'm not sure, but this is what I think you always have to be very conscious of on Ripple, that it can do. It doesn't have to go all the way up here. I'm being dramatic. It may only come to here, but you know, it breaks out of the triangle, sucks everyone in, and then drops. And there are sort of countless examples across the chart of that on various different time frames. So here you see it's consolidated, it's broken out, and then dumped straight back through it. Much smaller time frames, you can see it very regularly as well. I'm trying to find other examples, you know, even here. Triangle consolidation, like breaks out, appears strong, but then ultimately just comes straight back through it. There it just did it on a wick. But again, lower time frame here. Again, if you look at the lower time frames, I remember this looking much more like a triangle, and again, this one didn't break out and break up the high, but again, broke out of a local triangle before dropping through it. I'm not sure if we got one. I think we got one at the $1 mark previously as well, because I remember arguing with somebody about it. Yeah, this was it. I think somebody was telling me I was being far too bearish. I think here. And then when we got the bounce there, I think they were saying, ha ha ha. I mean, this isn't so much a triangle. I mean, arguably bit of a triangle, but not really the best triangle. But I think I was saying, no, we're going to go down to, I don't know, I remember $1, but maybe a down or even lower than $1. But anyway, yeah, so the countless examples there of triangle fake outs that Ripple has. And like I say, it does them a lot in the other direction as well. So you've got a triangle and then a fake down when it's bearish. So do be aware of this and just manage your stops and manage yourself accordingly. You know, then obviously on the flip side, we do have this 7-year triangle, which everybody's very excited about, and we've got Ripple holders who, you know, have held for 7 years. You know, the Ripple army that have been holding through every rally of this, who are now again going to be super excited. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to break out. It doesn't necessarily mean everybody's going to FOMO in the top again, although they might, because there's such high what's the word, like social media on this. Like there's a lot of talk about it. I'm just going to delete some of these levels. I did want actually some of these lower levels tested. There was a 3 month down here that hadn't been tested. So let's hope this is not an epic triangle fake out from this perspective either. So, you know, this could be a triangle fake out. So yeah, always be wary of what the bear scenario is and don't hold through. I don't believe in long-term holds on any crypto particularly, except you know, obviously Bitcoin and Ether perhaps, but any altcoin. You know, because the amount of money you could have made elsewhere holding this for 7 years while it's going sideways, with the high chance that it could have gone to zero if the SEC had won their case, it's too much of a risk. And a quick look at the BTC chart, which I think was a sort of similar scenario. So it's made also an annual demand and much closer, but I don't think it's come down and tested. Well, it hasn't tested that this year, but it may have held it as support previously. It's got an annual supply above, but again, it's just trying to break through this range. Excuse me. So 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, monthly. So I guess there's no particular supply. So we did have a monthly supply here, which is what I hadn't alerted previously. But it went straight through that. It's possible, yeah, this can run up now into the 6 month supply up here, so it hasn't tested there. it's got this annual demand, and certainly if it tests the annual demand and can hold the top of here or even deeper inside, then I would expect to see the 6-month test. You know, we're still holding resistance below this zone, so you'd really want to see a close up in here and some more bullish price action again before longing this immediately. But supply is certainly going to be weak now because it's been hit so many times and obviously come up very strongly, but again we've come up strongly previously and have retraced quite happily, so again you can't be too bullish at resistance, but there's some positive signs with having that annual demand in there. So we've, like, it has been held as support on the lower time frame, but not since the candles closed. We've got the same 3-week demand that we see on the US dollar pair. So down some lower time frames. I mean, it's really looking quite similar to the lower US dollar pair. 3-day demand down there, and like I say, that monthly below. We can cross that bridge if we come to it. So again, it's making some local demand here. I just feel like maybe it's going to need a bit more consolidation. Then I don't know, I guess we've had other scenarios back here in 2017 where it's just gone straight up for round 2. You know, and it has been in this range a long time, so maybe it's about time it breaks out of the range. But like I say, you know, my preference is to be buying here or on retests, but not at resistance. But certainly, so if this is more, I feel like I've lost a stream again. No, it's still there. If we do break out, so the one benefit of looking at the BTC pair is if we do break out and the US dollar pair is at all-time high, then I would look to the BTC pair to tell me when it's time to sell. So, and that, according to this chart, is likely to be up in this 6-month, possibly on a swing failure into this 3-week here. Let me show that time frame. So there is a 3-week supply there that wasn't quite tested on this wick, so that would be kind of the first area that you would potentially look to either exit, take profit if you were in long on the US dollar pair, or up here in the 6-month supply, and wherever the US dollar pair is at any given time, since it'll be at all-time high at that point. Okay, so back to the original chart. So, quick summary for Ripple. Made an annual demand, also has closed above an annual level up here. So locally we want to see 1.9652 hold as support, and that 12-hour demand that forms the base of this current consolidation. If that breaks down, then you'll be looking for shorts. If you want a breakout trade, that's up to you. It's not what I typically do. Watch out for the triangle fake out, which is Ripple's signature mark. I'll just draw it again, so we've got it in the summary. Ripple's signature move, triangle, fake out, dump. So very much watch out for that scenario. And then below, like, we do have 3-day demand locally, so you can look for longs there if you want. My alert's lower just on the basis that Ripple normally would wick through. But again, we'll see if we start getting that breakdown. At the moment, all the local demand is holding, and we've still got some strength in the up move, or some strength. It seems to be dying the momentum a little bit, but it can obviously just pick up. If it can consolidate up here, then it can pick up for another push. So hopefully that's useful. Let me know if you have any questions, and let me just check the chat. Seems to be okay. My new chat function isn't working, I can see that, but I can see the chat on YouTube is promising. Right, then I will move on to Litecoin, I think. So Litecoin, I did show the GBTC chart yesterday, Grayscale's offering, and that for me looked fairly bearish, so I'm not overly bullish on this, I don't think, but it's also just sort of like rippling sort of this giant range slash triangle. So we did Ripple, like overall, like it's, you know, it's on the annual, it's pretty bullish. You know, it's got its main annual demand which it's tested, and this I would certainly be quite bullish on from an annual perspective. But then obviously I don't really want to wait 5 years for it to break out, if that's how long it's going to take. So there's no new annual demand. The only downside of this, and why I'm more bearish, at least the immediate term, is that, you know, it didn't close above the 6 to make a 6-month demand. It didn't close above here to make a 3-month demand. And that's really what you would have wanted to see if it was going to be stronger. Has made a 2-month demand at this level. No monthly in there. And then 3 week is, again, a bit like Bitcoin, a little bit more concerning in that it might make a 3-week supply. So if it closes below this candle, then we might be looking at a 3-week supply, but we've still got 12 days till that closes. So we need to see, similarly on the 2 weeks, still 5 days till it closes. But again, it's not going to be overly promising if it closes below that candle. And then the weekly similar. So far I've got an alert down here. And this, again, just resembles, if you watch any of my other updates, you'll know that my skepticism about some of these alts that have not necessarily come off good demand down here. And this, I think, it does have good demand. It is a 2-month demand or something like that down here, but it has had multiple tests, and I don't really like it when it's had this many tests. And each of those, you know, hasn't been able to move significantly higher. This is a stronger move for sure. And I think, you know, some of this move was off the back of these the more established cryptos potentially being part of the US tax-free on US cryptos regime that's supposedly coming in under Trump. I don't think that's confirmed yet. But again, this is, you know, as I sort of just explained with Ripple, you know, this is a large consolidation that's sitting on top of, I guess, a weekly or a 2-weekly demand down here with the annual level. So we're still bullish on the macro, of course, but we don't necessarily want to trade according to a yearly chart. But those stops there make me slightly nervous that if this does come down through here, I just don't know if we're going to get a bounce or if we're just going to run through all those stops and start running back to, you know, I'd kind of given up on putting longs on this for a while because I just wasn't confident that this demand was going to hold. So as I explained for Ripple, you know, that we have, here you can see we've got this, I think it's probably a 2-week or something, but I just draw it as a weekly for the moment. We've got this weekly demand at the base of this consolidation that's holding the whole thing up. And delete that. And as we make new demand, we can start looking for the higher lows off the back of this weekly demand. But really, that's the point of the consolidation. And now this made monthly demand and came and bounced on it, but hasn't really gone anywhere. And it's bounced sort of 3 times and hasn't really gone anywhere. And I guess, yes, it can be slow, but it just makes me nervous that it's actually not that strong. And it is Litecoin as well, which is hardly one of the hype cryptos that everybody wants to buy. So at the moment I have an alert for 3-day then 2-week demand, and again, like I said, there's all this chop through here. So even if we did get a drop into here, I suspect it's likely we're going to get some sort of a wick taking some of these stops out. And I've said, you know, just generally be slightly wary of these long entries, and anything with this trend line stops here is a risk. So you can see we've got those trend line stops. You can see my YouTube streams are whirring again now, so I don't know if they're running effectively or not. Just give up. And then, yeah, locally, so we had a local 4-day demand here, which I've kind of deleted now because this wick ran through it. But it could get picked up 3-day, in fact. So it's actually, so it ran through the 4-day. I think that was where my original alert was for the bounce here, but then came back down deeper into the 3-day. I then had alerts, you know, I had an alert here for a retest there. So overall, this has come off 3-month supply up here. So I think that's the other important thing to note, that, you know, while we're hoping all these things will break out because they are in essentially these long-term bear moves, long-term bull moves, they are also in triangles where they're squidged between, in this case, 3 monthly supply and monthly, 2 monthly demand down here. So I'll actually delete that one because it makes it just a bit easier to see. So until we actually see supply break or demand break, we're just in this sort of, again, giant triangle. So on Litecoin, there's no new short entries at the moment, and then longs I'd be looking for down here. If we do get more consolidation and another push up, then I'd be looking at this 5-day supply up here. I'm not sure why I don't like the... So there's no 2 weekly, there is a monthly and then a weekly supply here, but again, when you've got that kind of chop, smaller zones like this, I probably think it's likely we'll run through, and certainly if this has the ability to do another wave and if the market does go back into full-on bull mode, then we'll potentially be looking at higher, but maybe I'm just being slightly more conservative for the short side on this, just because crypto can run a bit higher. But yeah, I need to see a little bit more on Litecoin, but there's nothing I particularly would want to trade locally on this at the moment, nor would I really want to guess which direction it's going to go. When things are this long in the triangle, like you said, there is a daily supply here. You could short that daily supply if you want, but again, we're just coming down into demand. It's still possible that this pushes higher, really now this is just a small local range, so the risk to reward isn't great on that. May make a 2-day supply in here, but again, because of the chop of demand, risk to reward is not really good enough for me to consider. It's a possible entry on the 2-day up here if the market stays relatively slow. I might actually alert that just so we can see what happens. Tentatively alert 2-day supply. Okay, so we've got a local alert on that. We've got the deeper, more generic, not sure about exactly where it's going to bounce zones down here to look for longs, and then shorts all the way up there if it does move higher. Quick look at the BTC pair. Yeah, so again, this is just in a huge downtrend, and there's nothing really that would make you want to long this over BTC at this point. It's got an annual supply up there that hasn't been tested. Let's look at some of the lower ones, and then more immediately we had a 2-month supply here, which is rejected. Let's run through this monthly. So there's a possibility here that we've broken one supply, we've come up into the next supply. There's a possibility it can give a higher low on this 3-week demand. But again, we've already had that bounce now, and if that bounce hasn't really seen that very, very quick follow-up, I'm not overly confident. And now we made a new 5-day supply, so I think this is, at this stage, still probably going to resume the downtrend. And you can see back here, that we've done these relatively big moves in the past just to take out some of the local supply, but then ended up back below, bouncing off the lows, but then unable to make a new high, and then just continuing the downtrend. So at this point, given we've got a local 5-day supply, and there's already been a test here, I think I would not be overly bullish on that with the 2-month supply at the highs. So not necessarily something I want to long Litecoin at the moment, and I'm okay with having that short there. So quick summary on Litecoin. The bullish thesis is obviously we're in this very, very bullish annual pattern, but we don't really want to trade an annual pattern bouncing off demand here that might take another 5 years to break out. And then locally, we've price rejected 3-month supply up here at the top of this candle, and then demand isn't strong. It hasn't created 6-month demand, hasn't created 3-month demand, has in fact closed on a swing failure of the top of the range there. We've got a swing failure of the lower of the range, a swing failure at the top of the range. So it potentially could just stay in the middle of this range right now. So maybe it might be scalpable on the lower time frames if that's what you want to do, but that's not something I'm overly bullish on. And then on the long side, slightly warily, I've got an alert here for longs on 3-day and then 2-week demand. Just see what happens when we get down there, be conscious of that trend line. And then local alert on 2-day supply to see if you can get a scalp short entry there. If we do happen to have a bigger move 5-day supply inside the 3-month up here would be probably the next level I'd be looking at. BCH. So let's see what we did on the year. So the yearly looks like it closed very, very slightly over the level. So again, you can look at it holding current price. And again, I did look at Grayscale, the BCH offering that they have yesterday, but I didn't like it at all. We did have a move already up into the annual supply. So the bullish thesis on this, I guess, so this is an annual downtrend, so I don't particularly like it. But the bullish thesis is that this rejection didn't take out the low. So there is an argument that this could go up and take out this high because it needs to go deeper into supply to be able to come back and play out this annual supply. Given the chart is so new, this is not something I'd really want to go for, but there is a bullish thesis for that. And then couple that with the bullish thesis that we did get a very, very slight close over this level. So let's just see what the low time frames tell us. So we had a 6-month demand here, which we got a bounce off. But again, hasn't gone higher than the candle that created the 6-month demand as yet, and not really a significant move up. We've got a 3-month demand down there, and got tested locally. That one really threw me off at the lows. I have to say, I was very conscious that the 3-month had confirmed, and I was looking at it for the immediate test. But then it took so much longer to actually get to it. I'd kind of forgotten all about it, so I was quite annoyed when that took off. There's also a 2-month demand in there that hasn't been tested, so that's certainly reasonable for long should the price get back there. And then we're kind of currently in this 2-month supply. So this really is, just a sort of downward consolidation, or arguably higher lows in there, but whether the higher lows, so let's show you here. So we've got a wave down, we've got a retracement, and then a wave down. This could still be a consolidation for that up move before a continued drop. Alternatively, it could be a reversal and then it could break this high. So this is just sort of fairly indecisive for me. So I'm not overly confident with longs on this because I don't like being in annual supply. And then we're at the top of this impulse down that we had. It's a second test, but if we start seeing a move higher, perhaps, but then we're moving into, so there's some equal highs up here that I had alerted for possible shorts. And the other issue I had with this is that while we tapped off 6-month demand here, again we left a lot of stops below here and a 3-month demand inside untested. So there's some decent levels if we get a bigger move down for possible longs. I think I haven't really added them as yet. So yeah, we've got this yearly level, but you can see it's not really, it potentially was trying to be held as support before it confirmed in December, but we have wicked through it now into January, so it's not necessarily a clean level that I want to look at as a support at the moment. And you can see we had a weekly demand here that's wicked through and has taken another wick through now. So again, this is looking like it wants to break down. And then we go into the next zone down here. So similar to Litecoin here, we've got that risk of the trend line here. We've got 2-week demand. I'm going to put the risk of trend line stocks being taken out. So we do run the risk. So, and again, with a lot of the alts, they have this sort of similar issue here that again, we have this move up, we have this retracement, we've made a demand, and then we've gone moved up, but we haven't made a higher high. So this demand isn't necessarily strong. Doesn't mean it's not going to hold, and then again, that's how you see triangles formed. So it could still hold here, we see the triangle form, and then we get the move up. But again, you just need to be conscious of the risk of those. We're just guessing that it's going to be a triangle being formed at the moment, whereas it's still possible that we get the zigzag correction, which makes the lower low. And in this case, particularly because we have this 3-month demand down here, it's more possible that that's the case. Having said that, there's no reason this can't give a trade or a scalp. What was it, like intra-month, intra-week trade off the demand in the interim. On a lot of these alts as well, I had alerts in the 5-day supply. Some of them have tested, but not very many. So there is a 5-day supply immediately above here, which I think is still worth the alert. I've got a monthly level there. Let me just check that. Okay, so there's a monthly indirect level there. So it's, again, a little bit indecisive here. And just forming the triangle. But yeah, there's things that make me not overly bullish on this, but it's just sideways consolidation triangle, indecision. Looking at the BTC pair, so this so we made a new annual supply in there here. This was already, or there was a 6 month just above it which already got tested. Oh no, it didn't, excuse me, 6 months. So there's a 6 month also new, then they're new. This is why I thought it already got tested, but it was tested as a 3 month level, but now it's converted to a 6 month and an annual level. So there's still potentially a lot of resistance in that area if it comes back. So again, I'm not bullish on this, particularly with regard to Bitcoin. It's also fallen back below that level and is using that potentially as resistance. Monthly, and it's made new monthly supply immediately there as well. So while again we have this impulse up, and then we had a second move that didn't quite take out the high, so we've got a slightly lower high there. So it's possible we'll come back into demand and then have another push from here. If we didn't have all the supply on it, I'd be more inclined to potentially trade those zones. Someone's saying, what do I think about EOS? I'm getting to EOS just after BCH. Yeah, I'd be more inclined to trade this as a long if we didn't have all this supply through here. And yeah, we have scenarios, it's crypto, where it can run straight through it, the same as, here we had a big green candle that went straight through monthly supply and straight through this monthly supply. Can happen. And it's certainly not a bad risk to reward to look for longs here with your stop below and just hope you get a massive crypto style candle that runs through all this, but I wouldn't say it's overly high probability. But if you want to watch the low time frames, then be my guest. Like I said, we are on 2 week demand here, 2 week, 3 week demand. But again, we're not seeing much strength going through there at the moment, so this is not something I necessarily want to look for longs on. Not necessarily shorts either. I mean, it could go sideways if Bitcoin goes up and the BCH pair, BCH US dollar pair doesn't go up too much. Then we could just see that BTC pair go sideways for now. But okay, so summary of BCH. In the bigger picture, we're sort of, again, like many of the majors in this giant triangle, we've got coming off annual supply, and we're still, this run has hit again into annual supply, so I don't really want to be longing here until I see that break more and a more significant demand put in. We have closed just over the annual level, so it's possible we could call this an annual demand here, but the annual demand, and I haven't drawn the colour, is going to stretch all the way down to the base, so it's not a level I'm particularly confident of looking for longs on. In the immediate price, we might get a bounce off this 2 week zone, but we have the risk of running these stops. Below that, we have a 3 month demand. That's where I would next be looking for possible long entries. But again, we still have the risk. We've got just a big stop hunt risk on this. All these stops that would make me very nervous of holding longs for any period of time. We have had similar scenarios in the past. And it will give the bounce off the top before running through them, so there's no problem with alerting it and just seeing whether we get the bounce or whether we get anything tradable. To the upside, I've got an alert on the immediate 5 day supply, just in case we get an immediate lower high that's scalpable. And then up here we had a couple of equal highs that I thought was worth watching for a possible short entry if we get a bigger move up. So that's the BCH summary. And finally, EOS. So, 12-month no new supply. We've already got a 12-month zone all the way up there. 6 month, unfortunately, so it's choppy on the 6 month, but 6 month we didn't get a close over the 6 month level, which is what you would have wanted if we were going to be more bullish. 3 month is kind of the supply that we're bounded underneath, or that I've got marked at the moment. And we did take a wick up into that and took all the stops above. So again, this is really just a kind of broadening wedge type structure, which I'll draw in a moment. 2 months, nothing new. And monthly, so we've got a monthly demand down the bottom here, and this is very similar to a lot of the alts in the local price action. So we've kind of got a broadening wedge type thing going on here. So again, there'll be no particular issue with looking for longs like that, in the hope that, you know, now we've hit this 3 month supply. Probably that one would have created it, so 1, 2, 3 times. It's possible another run could continue. I have no idea if this has any fundamentals behind it whatsoever, but either way, I would want the bigger retracement on this. So, you know, it is still in supply, it hasn't broken out of anything, it's closed as a swing failure on the 3 month. Is it even closed as a swing failure on the yearly chart? Yep, it's closed as a swing failure of the previous year's candle, and it's closed, you know, significantly back below. The alert I've got set for the lows at the moment is just on 3-day demand, so I've set the alerts on these majors slightly more aggressively, but then I'm conscious that they might wick deeper inside. So there's, yeah, I put in the comment 3-day demand, 2 week and 1 month just below, but it's also coming from 6 month supply. So I've got 6 month purely because it's still a swing failure of this 6 month candle, where it's closed back in the range, so it's on the edge. But yeah, so really on this, I would like to see deeper, or just see a bit more. Got the immediate 5-day supply alerted, but watch for wicks on that, because there is a little bit of a trend line going through here, so it is possible this can run through those stops. Would really rather this entry, I kind of would have wanted to hit on the first bounce here. Once it's done a bit too much consolidation, then these entries become slightly lower, or somewhat lower probability. But again, this is a tough one. It's sort of using that 6 month level as support, but my preference was that it would go down properly into a demand. And again, much like all the other majors, 3-day and 3-day, these stacked 3 days has made it more challenging as a 3-day. In fact, multiple, and this is the daily chart, but 2-3 days there, and then we had a daily that got a bounce, we had another daily that sort of got a bounce but with some wicks. Now we've got a 3-day, then we've got another 3-day, and then it becomes harder to know where exactly you're going to get your bounce. That's when it's sort of good to have the fibs on there to see where those land. So on the linear, we're already kind of in the golden area that you could look for longs, but I don't really want to look for longs if I stop all the way down here. On the log scale, it's probably cleaner, the 61 and the 70. But really I would want this back in this lower section, 3-day or that 2 week, 1 month, before looking for longs on this. And also with this, I know that the BTC pair, oh, actually no, I take that back. I actually don't think the BTC pair is as bad as I think. Yeah, so the BTC pair has come off monthly supply, you know, had a strong move straight up into monthly supply, but has made a monthly demand. So that's something that's of interest and worth watching. Again, I'd like a drop a bit deeper into this. So what would be great for EOS would be to see it drop, the BTC pair drop onto that weekly demand, the US dollar pair drop into at least into this bottom zone, if not down to the monthly, you know, around the 50s, the low 50s cents, with this dropping into there, and then to look for the bigger move. But again, not dissimilar to Litecoin on this, just don't get too excited about it. You know, here we had another move up similar to what we're seeing now. I don't think it made a monthly demand here. I think I did look at that before, but I think there was at least a weekly in there, and it really just drifted back through it. You know, this thing still is in a, where are we, 2018, so what's that, an 8-year downtrend. So don't really get too excited on that. It's not a high probability trade. but we could see a run on EOS. I guess, you know, having said that, you know, the majors can move quite significant different distances on the US dollar pairs, with the BTC pairs still just doing smaller moves like this. So it is a possibility, and, you know, on the plus side is if this does run, you know, all this supply is just increasingly choppy up here. So it's had that test of the monthly in there, and then there's some chop. There's another monthly up here that wasn't quite tested, but, you know, it could run all the way up if it really wanted to, but I would think it would need some sort of fundamentals catalyst to have that type of bounce on EOS. But it's not horrendous on the low time frames to potentially look for longs. Myself, so yeah, the high here in weekly supply, I got a nice short on that. Yeah, so I guess like for all of these majors, we're really just looking at whether we're going to get a follow up. You know, they've had their pumps. They're now consolidating. They're not consolidating at ideal levels. That's kind of the problem. But I guess if they're bullish, then they would consolidate higher. But they're typically not the bullish ones of you know, across the crypto market. So makes it slightly more challenging. If we do run higher, then yeah, that 6 month supply up there, 6 month annual supply up there is where I'd be looking for the next short entries on the higher time frames. So quick summary on EOS. It's just in this eternal downtrend. However, we have had multiple hits on 3 month supply now, and we're making a sort of a broadening wedge type pattern. Does have new monthly demand, worth looking for longs here, that if this is a deviation now below the low of this range, we do have some space now with multiple tests on local supply to have a fairly decent move higher, but I still want to see this retrace further first, ideally. So I've got an alert set for 3 day demand that would be the more aggressive, and then there's a weekly and a monthly in there. And I've got a local alert for 5 day supply, and what I would be hoping for on this is that it's going to bounce and then give a rejection back into here before some sort of move up. But bear in mind the overall trend is still very resoundingly down. Like on this, if it's rejecting this 3 month supply here, this is a 3 month downtrend on the 3 month. It's only because it's put in monthly demand that we're potentially looking for longs in that zone at the bottom. So that's it, I think, for the day, or for these. I will have a break. I might think about doing the new majors in an hour or so, get my voice back a bit first, and I might try and run through those charts myself first. Hope this has been useful. Let me know if you have any questions. Please like and subscribe just so I get the activity on my channel, and ideally, hopefully you like me. And feel free to put any questions or requests in Telegram if you've got anything specific you want me to cover or anything charted. And another question, do I believe in a big crash coming on S&P? If yes, what is my target? So I can have a quick look at that. S&P, a big crash I think is dramatic. I won't claim to know. I don't know enough macroeconomics and about, you know, the interactions between all of these. I don't know why that's still there. Between all of these, the equities, the dollar, the, you know, war, bonds, all that sort of stuff. I don't know enough about the interactions to be able to predict whether a huge crash is coming. What I can say is, from a chart perspective, no. There is nothing on the chart as yet that tells me a huge crash is coming. So if I go to this, we have, it depends also what you define as a huge crash, I guess. So we made annual demand for a start. So we might get a huge crash down to here. I mean, to be fair, that's going to be what, a third down in price. So if it did drop to here, at least a third down in price. So that's a fairly significant crash for the S&P. But we have an annual demand that I would expect to hold some sort of a bounce. And then, you know, if by that point it's made 6 months supply, then obviously we start thinking about the higher time frame, bigger crash. 6 months is nothing new. 3 months, we have a 3 month demand inside this annual demand. So again, decent zone for looking for longs if we get back there. We had a 2 month here which got tested, and there's also a 2 month probably about the same area as the 3 month inside that annual. So what you can see is like, so every time everybody calls for a really big crash, and I guess, you know, this is the kind of, we had this COVID crash, which was a really big crash, but this just went back, I think, into 6 months demand down here. I wasn't trading this at this time. There's a monthly at least down there, if not a 6 monthly. Did run through an annual zone, so it is possible it can do that, but then obviously pounded straight back up through it. You know, when we'd had this big correction here, February 22 to December, so you know, it was a long period of time. Everybody was like, oh, we're going to hell, like the markets is over, it's recession, etc. And obviously everybody says that at the bottom, but you know, at the bottom we just bounced into 2 months demand. You know, it hadn't made any monthly supply, and it's just bounced straight into 2 months demand and taken off again. So on the higher time frames, like I don't want to be calling for big crashes and things like that until I see sort of monthly or 2 monthly demands broken. Depending on what your time frame is, sorry, thank you, you're welcome. Yeah, it depends on what your time frame, and like I say, what you define as a big crash. You know, some people might define what we've done already as a big crash. But for me, I'm looking at price bouncing between supply and demand. Like if we come all the way back down here, have I not got the annual drawn in, or was that lower? No. For some reason, maybe I haven't updated all these annual zones. I think I did the immediate monthlies close to price, but either that or sometimes I lose things when I open Trading View on my phone, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, there's the annual demand there. And then so I think I previously had alerts of this 3 month, 2 month inside, which haven't been tested. Then we've got this 2 month that did get tested. And then currently, right below price, we've got a monthly. So no, at the moment, the chart is not telling me there is going to be a big crash. If this monthly breaks, flips to supply, then yes, perhaps then I will start saying, okay, then we're going to have a move. Then we've got this 2 month back down here, which has already been tested, but then potentially we could see a move down to that annual level. But as it stands, no. The only thing, like I would say, sort of counter to that from, you know, what I hear other people say about the fundamentals more than anything, is that that this is, you know, while the dollar is going up, and I mean, even from what I've seen, while the dollar is going up, then it's unusual for equities to be going up so dramatically. So whether that means they're overpriced and due a correction, and then those things from a fundamental perspective, yes, very possible. But like I just go on what the chart is telling me. In fact, even looking at this isn't the best 3 month demand because it's kind of set out from the price and has a big wick off the top of it. But that's kind of that's where I've got my next alert anyway. So we'll see if CPI hits that tomorrow. But this 3 months down here, and really what you're looking at more than supply and demand as well, and I find it kind of more applicable on the indices, is the waves. So you've got a wave, retracement. This is not a wave because this is just a consolidation within the range of that wave. So that's your kind of next wave. So really it could come all the way down here and still be in a bullish uptrend. And you'll see different views on different time frames. So then you can argue that they've got this retrace, this retrace, this retrace. So we're starting to see a possible breakdown here on the weekly chart. But again, it just depends on what time frame you're choosing. Hasn't broken, you know, it's doing this head and shoulders, and it's kind of, but it hasn't broken this consolidation, the lower consolidation that the most recent consolidation is sitting on. So again, if we see a resounding break of that level, then again, potentially look for shorts. And for me, you know, so I hope this is useful. I don't know, I'm kind of like, the difficulty I have is when I'm looking at all different time frames. And so for me, when I trade FX or equities, I haven't traded equities for a while, but when I set these alerts, it's just kind of going, okay, there's a zone here and you're looking for the low time frame turnaround in that zone. You know, if this hit the monthly, you know, if you want to trade along here, if you see a reversal, or on that 3 week, if it wicks through into there, then, you know, you're looking at, do you want to take profit here where there's now a weekly supply, or are you just going to hold it for a new high? And that really comes down to whether you're a swing trader with a scalper, your appetite. Like, I'm terrible at lost profit, so I would get very irritated if I'd taken a very good long entry there, and if it came up to the weekly and then came back down a bit deeper and then took me out before taking off. So I'd much rather just take profit here and not be in the trade anymore. but that's really up to how you trade and your own opinion. But at the moment, yeah, so like I say, I don't see a big crash coming on this yet until I see demand broken. And for me, I just try and treat it that simply. If demand breaks and then new supply is made, if the new supply is a higher time frame than the demand that's been broken, then great, then you've got a much more high probability short. But until then, you're essentially guessing. I could go down much lower time frame in here, and then obviously, you know, so and I will, if you're following my FX channel, you'll see I said alert. So obviously I talk about waves and retracement. So, you know, we've got a wave, very small retracement, wave, bigger retracement, stronger wave, middle, you know, here. So now we are starting to see the local breakdown, this level having of this last up move having been broken, but then that's the next one you're looking at, or this consolidation through here. That's your support, and that's that monthly demand again. If you see this broken, 3 week underneath makes it slightly more awkward, but yeah, if you see that broken, then again, more viable for shorts. So I hope that's useful. And if there's no other questions, I will take a break and then attempt to come back later to look at the new majors. But I might chart them in silence and then just do summaries at the end, perhaps, because my voice will start going again. Anyway, I hope that's useful. Have a good evening, or come back later if you're around and watch the new majors.